All right, we're going to wait for the rest of the people to come in, and then we'll get started. All right, I think we got one more coming in. And then I think we have most of the panelists here. All right, I think we're ready to get started. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alden Hart, and I wanted to thank you for taking the time to come to this discussion. With the current COVID-19 outbreak, we wanted to be able to provide our students with the information that they would normally be given in our technical career day. I'd just like to point out for our students that are in the work-based learning group chat that you can put any additional questions in there, and I'll be checking those questions so that they can be answered. And for our panelists, if you could please say your name, your company, and the daily tasks of your job, that would be great. So can we start with Mr. Fazio?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Vinnie Fazio. I work for Blackwater Pragmatic, which is it's really my own consulting company. So I'm a computer programmer, a software developer, and I work just with a lot of different companies to provide software solutions for them.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Turton.
Yes, Brian Turton here. I'm with Buffalo Allied Technologies. We are a small manufacturer in the Lancaster area making extruded plastic parts. And then we also have a large part of our business as outsourced sales for other local manufacturers in the world of abrasives and then different metal goods as well.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kocher.
Yep. Hi, I'm Deanna Kocher. I am a mechanical engineering PhD student at Cornell University, and I study child-robot interaction. So most of my day-to-day activities are building robots and coming up with studies and games for kids to play.
Thank you. What about Mr. Lezynski?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mitch Lezynski. I'm here representing Moog Inc. in East Aurora. I work there as a product engineer in the commercial aircraft department. Moog's a world leader in precise motion control products and actuators and valve design. So many of our products function as electromechanical actuators.
Thank you. Ms. Kubit. Ms. Kubit? Okay, how about Mr. Garrison?
So, good afternoon, Mike Garrison. I also work for Moog in a different group than Mitch. I work in our space and defense group, and we similarly supply actuation and, as he said, precision motion control, which includes propulsion systems, actuation, and other type of controls. My main role is operational excellence and strategy.
Thank you. What about Ms. Shriver? Mr. Nuwer?
Yes, I'm Nathan Nuwer. I'm a third-year electrical engineering major over at RIT. So I'm currently interning over at the Network Communications Department at RIT.
Thank you. Mr. Mychajluk?
Hello, I'm Kevin Mychajluk. I work for Sharp Tooling Company, and one of the things that I do is manage the dog collar tag product, which is a silicone dog tag. We sell it through e-commerce, and I kind of run or manage the whole thing. So everything from marketing all the way to production and order fulfillment and customer service.
All right, thank you. I just saw that Ms. Shriver just joined the call. If you could list your name, your company, and the daily tasks of your job, that would be fantastic. Ms. Shriver? All right, let's move on to Mr. Partsch. What about Mr. Kramer?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Von Kramer. I'm a Vice President of Quality and Regulatory. I work for Viant Medical. We have a plant in Orchard Park, and I manage 11 different plants across the world. As a matter of fact, we're a contract manufacturer for the medical device business. We make anything from minimally invasive surgical tools to implants and instruments used for hip replacements, knee replacements, some stent delivery systems, and things like that.
Fantastic. What about Mr. Covert?
Yeah, I'm a electrical engineer at Wendel Engineering and Architecture. Essentially, I design power distribution, low voltage systems such as telephone, data, fire alarm, and lighting systems for commercial and industrial settings.
Great, thank you. For the remainder of our questions, I'd like to say for any of the panelists, you can chime in at any time and share your ideas or insight. So our next question is, what is something that you knew when you were entering this field? Or like, what did you?
We'll jump in on this one. For myself, I grew up in a family with, I guess half of them were teachers and the other half were engineers, and was surrounded a bit by the manufacturing world. So I was in sales for medical and industrial for a while, and then found myself working for an industrial cutting tool manufacturer, and I guess that's really been the start of it, the early exposure, knowing what opportunities there were, and then kind of finding them locally and jumping on board with some great companies.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone else have any insight on that question?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. So, I mean, when I was in high school and growing up, before I went into college and before I went into industry, before coming to grad school, my biggest thing about coming to engineering was I was always really interested in making things, any kinds of things. I loved going down to my dad's wood shop. I loved doing things with my hands and was strong in math and science. And so engineering seemed like a good starting point. And I went from there through my career.
I think Miss Shriver just joined again. Could you name could you state your name, your company, and the daily tasks of your job, please?
Hi. My name's Emily Shriver. I work for PAR Government Systems. I am a systems engineer and technical writer. For the first 3 years that I worked at PAR, I was working on a project to help create machine learning algorithms to detect manipulated images, audio, and video. So I worked on the data collection and the image manipulation and some of the software engineering, testing and all that. And then after that project was done, they moved me over to doing drone testing. So I worked on an airfield and helped conduct those tests, make sure that was all safe and good. And now I'm working on a software-defined radio project, and where we are creating systems for military use.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any anything else on that last question that we had before Ms. Shriver joined? Okay, we'll move on to our next question then. What is the best way to prepare to going into any type of engineering straight out of college?
I think if there's an opportunity to get in, like the one gentleman who's the RIT student that's already interning and there's a co-op somewhere, if you have that opportunity, I would highly suggest it. That's what I was able to do that at Curtis Screw, which is where I met, well, actually I knew Al from high school, but your technology teacher there. We worked together at Curtis Screw Company, and being able to do that as a co-op and start understanding the manufacturing world is invaluable for sure.
Great, thank you.
I can also chime in on that. So again, I'm the one interning. I'm on a co-op right now. So even if your school does not automatically set you up with interns or co-ops, definitely go out and search them. There's Handshake, there's LinkedIn. A lot of these social media sites are fantastic to find jobs. And if you find a great company that you like working at, they might even offer to pay for the rest of your college if you come work for them. So there's a lot of opportunities with coming out and getting yourself introduced to different companies.
Well, I
Thank
can
you.
jump in on that. I also graduated from RIT, and my co-op actually helped me pay for grad school. So they might not necessarily help you with your undergrad payment, but they might help you with furthering your education. Also look at alumni boards from your college or even your high school. A lot of people love hiring people from their group so they know your background knowledge. So those are pretty invaluable. Another thing is, don't be afraid to take classes outside of your core engineering classes. Becoming a specialist in something is invaluable because everyone in your class might take the same core classes, but if you find an engineering job that needs specific classes, even if it's art class, it all applies.
Great.
I also find networking is key. If you have friends or family or friends of your parents that may work in the engineering field, reach out to them, contact, see if they offer, if their job offers any type of intern, or even if it's free work, you're still learning something that's valuable.
Thank you.
If I could just chime in real quick, as somebody who's done a little bit of hiring, one thing that you could do is sort of just build your online resume. As in my field, computer programming or software engineering, you can actually, post a lot of your code for free up to something like GitHub, or there's a online, group called Stack Overflow where you can go and ask software engineering questions and get answers. So when somebody comes to me who might not have a lot of industry experience, looking for a job, those are some of the things that I go to, say, okay, is this person asking, smart questions? What sort of research did they do before they asked a question? And then, what are some examples of code that I could just go out there and quickly look at to see if they're maybe fit for the position I'm looking for. So those are just a few things.
Thank you.
I think something similar to that, that I just want to add in real quick. I know we talked a lot about internships and co-ops, and those are like super useful and one of the best ways to get industry experience. But in the event that you don't get an internship or you don't get a co-op, there's lots of ways that you can get experience, even just when you're in college. So I was in Engineers Without Borders for like 4 years. I led a trip over to Nicaragua, and that was pretty much how I got my industry job, because I had gone through, I was in charge of that project. I knew every detail of it, could talk about making CAD drawings for like 50 some pages. And so when I went to interview for a job and they said, well, this is our big pack of papers for how you build a skyscraper. Can you tell us like how you think you can manage that? And I was like, I could tell you the thread size on all of the fittings for this water system I just built. And so there's a lot of really good ways you can get experience that's really like lucrative to employers just without getting internships.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to also say that for any of the panelists, that they can contact Mr. Turton, Alden Turton, to follow up on interesting ideas and to build their professional network as well. So our next question is, what are the biggest challenges in your day-to-day life of your career?
So this is Mike Garrison. So can you hear me okay, Aiden?
Yes.
Okay. So largest challenges are usually the business problems. So there's usually a component of technical problems, and then there's the business challenges that go with those, which could be associated with people, communication, business tools, that all support solving the technical problems. So having a well-rounded background, a number of folks mentioned that, having a well-rounded background, not only in the technical field, but as well in the business side, will really help.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Mike, this is Vaughn. I would definitely agree with that. You know, as you go through problem solving and things like that, certainly time and cost management, right? Time management is definitely key. Being incredibly organized to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and setting your team up to succeed is really, really something you run into just about every day.
Thank you. Anything else for that question?
I'd be happy to chime in on some time management for college students, especially right now. That would be your next step if that's your decision to go to college. And time management is super important. So I know I do a D3 sport over at RIT, so that takes out a lot of time, a lot of valuable lab time. And I also do the Air Force ROTC, so that ends up taking a lot of time for training as well. So when it comes to the most difficult part, it's finding time. There's a lot of temptations at college, obviously drinking, going out on weekends. It's really important to stay disciplined, that if you want to build your resume and do a lot of extracurriculars, that you have to back off on, I guess, the fun of it all, because this has a really long effect on your life. And I've already witnessed 2 kids getting kicked out of our school due to excessive partying. So it's definitely something that you cannot look over, and there's plenty of people to help you out with time management.
Thank you. Our next question is, what do you enjoy most about what you do?
From my perspective, it's being able to knowing that the products that we're making in the medical field are helping people. Anytime we're working on ventilator projects now, trying to build ventilators for the COVID-19 situation out of 4 of our sites, there's incredible satisfaction in helping people and being proud of what you're doing. I would say that's one. From a personal standpoint, my favorite thing about what I do is problem solving, looking at a large scope issue and being able to go through a Six Sigma process and a black belt process, if you will, and and solve that problem and get a team of people together to solve that problem, and I think it's probably most rewarding.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add that the problem solving is one of the most enjoyable parts of it for sure. And I think one of the enjoyable aspects of it is that the specifics of the problem can change from problem to problem, but overall you can still get better at problem solving. So you're never like getting dull with certain topics, but you can still develop your skills as they apply to everything. So it offers a really rewarding experience, but not one that feels the same over and over and over again.
Thank you for that insight.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody said so far. As a software engineer, creative problem solving is definitely something I do every day. I've never written two programs that were exactly the same. So every day brings something new. And then also just learning, I'm always learning every day. I'm picking up some sort of new technology, or as somebody mentioned earlier in the call, learning about the different businesses I'm interacting with and how they work and how I could write better software to best serve them. That's what makes it fun every day to go to work, is just, how different every day is, and learning new stuff. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I'll just jump in real quick to answer that question. I enjoy the work-life balance being an engineer affords me. I can work on a problem all the time. However, I can also work on it from home. My job, even though I do work with a lot of hardware and I need to be in the shop, parts of my job I can do from where I need to be. And the work-life balance, I do not have to be constantly chained to my desk in order to work on my problems. So I thought that was useful. It also affords me travel. I get to go to different sites, and staying at fancy hotels in Boston is kind of fun sometimes. So having this engineering job allows me to do more than I could do by myself or in other positions.
Thank you. Our next question is, what experiences or interests in your personal life have led you to become involved in engineering?
So I guess I'll start with this one. But one thing that I always notice myself doing is walking around stores or shopping. Is I always looked at stuff and wondered why it is the way it was. What factors made the engineers and the business people decide to make the product in the way they did it. So I love kind of reverse engineering the business side and the engineering side of problems. And then another thing that led me to inventing things and designing things. Just so everyone knows, I went to engineering school for one semester, and now I'm working full-time product managing. So I took the kind of entrepreneurial route of it, and not an engineer. Just want to get that out there. But one thing I did when I was younger is I had a grandma that loves mowing her lawn, but her arthritis didn't let her turn the key in her tractor. So I invented a little thing that I 3D printed, and that helped her turn the key on the tractor herself. She had a big smile on her face. But knowing that the designs and the work that I put in could really help improve people's lives, that really made me drawn and really know that that's what I wanted to do rather than anything else.
Great, thank you. Anything else for that question? Okay, so our next question is, are there any obstacles that you've had to overcome in your career?
I can start with that one. So my background's a little bit different. I am not a classically trained mechanical engineer. I have an integrated background in mechanical engineering, product design, and child development, which is kind of where my research comes from, doing all these child robot studies. But one of the biggest things I had to overcome coming from that background was number one, I'm a woman in engineering. So there's always that bit of tension because I was one of the only women in all of my classes, even though my undergraduate university was pretty progressive on that front. We had more women than most places, but I was definitely still in a little bit of a different situation than other people. And then constantly trying to prove myself to these engineers because half of my background is arts. But I need to prove that I'm just as much a mechanical engineer as any of the guys in the classes. And I'm in a full-on PhD program now in mechanical engineering, but I still have a lot of those same struggles because my research is so interdisciplinary. You know, I build toys for kids, basically. And so I'm constantly justifying that to myself, justifying that to other people. And it requires me to be engaged in a lot of things that are challenging. I have to do computer science. I have to do hardware. I have to do psychology. And so there's a lot of, you know, you hit the wall and you have to be able to persist. You've got to be able to get through the things that you don't know.
Thank you. Is there anything else for that question?
I'll jump in real quick. I also come from a different background. I did my undergraduate in photographic sciences. And I made my master's in print media sciences, but now I'm working in radio. And I had to learn that just because I can do all the engineering, not all the engineering is for me. Mm-hmm. So knowing when to walk away and knowing that I have, like, my skills are worth something, and just because I don't have the technical resume that, like, my boyfriend who has his master's in mechanical engineering does, we have the same job right now, just at different companies. And we can both do the things we want to do. Just because maybe your paper doesn't look the same as someone else's resume, you still have the skills if you have the skills. So believe in yourself a little bit. And that was hard for me to get used to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can speak to this one as well. For myself, I graduated my undergrad in 2008, so coming into a recession. And one thing that there wasn't a lot of at that time were available jobs. So one thing that was important for me to do was to find out how I could distinguish myself to stick out from the crowd. And that's something that maybe you all will need to do as well. One thing that was mentioned earlier was networking. Your reputation becomes vitally important as you move through different organizations and advance your careers. So those are the things to really keep in mind.
All right, great, thank you. What experiences or interests in your personal life have led you to become involved in engineering?
So for me, this is Mike Garrison. So I work at a company that builds products, and that lines up with my interest to see the results fairly quickly, although some of our projects take years to develop. But see the results no different than working on motorcycles or cars or building things at home. Those lined up well with interest in engineering.
Okay, thank you.
I'll jump in. My father was an electrician, so I would go with him when he would go out, not actually for his occupation, but, you know, to do side projects and stuff. And I would go with him, and I learned things, and it was actually fun for me to understand more how these things kind of worked. So I used that. I became an electrician myself. I actually got a two-year associate's degree from Alfred State to become an electrician. Did that for several years, and then I wanted to take it one step further and design the systems that I was actually wiring. So it was kind of built up over time.
Thank you. Is there anything else for that question? Okay, so if you had to give one piece of advice to a student thinking about going into the engineering field, what would it be?
I think for me, as you go through school and college, you're constantly, you're learning things and taking tests, and people want to know that you know the answers to things. I think maybe one of the most important things I learned, shortly after I entered the workforce was it's okay to say I don't know when you don't know the answer, and just say, hey, I don't know the answer to that question, but let me go find out for you. that's something that's, when you go to school all your life, that's sort of new to it was new for me to learn, and it was an important lesson. So I would say, that's okay. It's okay when you go out into the workforce to do that. To not know things.
That's a great point, Vinnie. Always have data. You want to have data to back up your decisions, and when you get into the mechanics of things, that opinions a lot of time don't matter. It's a lot of things that you back up with data that make a difference. So come prepared and make sure you're organized, and everything works out well.
Yeah, and I think my 2 cents on this is that just remember that you should never give up if what you're doing is what you want to do. Engineering is not about a destination necessarily. It's usually about a process. It's about a way of thinking about problems. I think everybody here has talked about problem solving and how that's their favorite part of their job. And so it's really important when you're in a difficult class or when you're up against a difficult challenge that you're able to persist and to be able to take a step back and rethink. It's really easy to give up on a lot of engineering problems, and that this does not help you become an engineer. Engineering is about continuing on even when you get stuck.
And just to add a little bit to what Deanna said, and if you can do that with a level of grace and fortitude, I have seen enough adults in my life have little tantrums in the workplace because they thought they were always the smartest in their class, and they finally reached a problem they didn't understand, they couldn't deal with, and they just couldn't handle it. Being able to practice that throughout your life and just staying calm, communicating effectively with your peers, that will help you in the long run. Because if you don't know everything, but they can still trust you to keep your calm and while you go through that situation, that'll help a lot.
Yeah, that goes along with managing stress. So effective communication and being able to stay calm helps you manage your stress so you don't create stress in other people as well as in your own life, because problems, you will bring them home with you, and you have to learn ways to be able to manage that in your life so you get the work-life balance we talked about earlier, so you don't bring the stress home and have it start to impact your home life.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Matt Robertson that says, how big of a role do social skills play into being successful in your line of work?
Very. That was one of the things that I wrote down that I wanted to point out. It's not just like the engineering or all of the technical classes that you're taking, but it's knowing all those soft skills, how to communicate with people, how to work together. Those are all just super important. And, unfortunately, you don't always get the time to stress those skills, when you're going through a college or a high school curriculum.
Thank you.
I can even add in on social skills, even communication skills. One of my coworkers is from China. I believe his first language is Mandarin. He didn't know how to write in English. So I have to now work with him on a project. And obviously we're in a period where we can't talk face to face. So we're using Slack to type back and forth. And I can tell he's using Google Translate. So when you might just type in, for his word, might come out more generic, less specific than what we're actually talking about. So the communication skills there are huge. So I have to work on not getting frustrated at taking the extra time to talk to him. And at the same time, it's a very international business when it comes to engineering. So definitely be prepared to encounter all cultures.
Great, thank you.
And it's not just different cultures and languages. It's simply just tone, and becoming a good listener is key. If you work, I've had the opportunity to work on the East Coast of the United States, on the West Coast in California, as well as over in the Netherlands for a year. And even though everyone was, for the most part, speaking English, just simple changes in the way that they, their environment that they came from, and other things that influence the way that they speak and their tones, their particular slang terms or abbreviations that they use. All those things require good listening.
All right, thank you. Our next question is kind of a follow-up question. It's how should teenagers be developing their social skills, and what should they be doing in high school to work on those skills?
So I would suggest do some mini group projects with just your friends. Just one weekend, say, let's go build a thing, or let's take a project from start to finish with people you're already comfortable with. It could be your family, maybe only one or two other people, but just practice taking something start to finish with other people. And those are, even if it's within a club, I used to work at FBLA. We used to run the school store, and we had to figure out together how to do inventory, how much we cost things. That was really useful because we had to cold call people and talk to suppliers. That was really beneficial in a small, safe environment.
Thank you. Our next question is there any room for growth as far as salary and promotions go within this career?
I would say from experience at Moog, the growth opportunity is enormous. It all depends on what career path you take. In engineering, you can typically take career paths that may lead you into the more technical side or the project management. So you could be a design engineer, systems engineer, where you're really focused on the technical solution. You could be a project engineer where you end up in a project management role, or you could be an engineering manager where you're the manager of people who are typically engineers. So all three of those career paths offer their own salary opportunities. And so really you just have to fit that with your personality, your skills, and your interests.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else for that question?
Yeah, I would just second that last answer. And one of the reasons I decided to start my own consulting business is for exactly that reason, to take the question of salary just into my own hands. So the sky's the limit, basically. As long as you're willing to work hard and you're good at what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add to what Vinnie, I think, said. With my entrepreneurship type deal, what I got going on, my salary is kind of tied to the performance of the product I manage. And like he said, the sky's kind of the limit with how high that can go, but also it's a lot more risky than just having a standard paycheck at the end of every week. So there is that, the risk reward that you kind of decision you got to make for yourself.
Thank you. We have another question. One of our students asked, are any of your companies offering internships or on-hand overviews of your workplace?
Ours usually does out in Orchard Park, usually in the summertime. There's usually internships, some available. Can't promise anything this year. I don't know what around COVID and thing, right? A lot of restrictions in the workplace this year, but usually that's the case. Usually there's some high school students that come in and do some data entering and trying to at least get their feet wet as far as what the manufacturing world looks like.
Okay, thank you. What are the prerequisites typically for internships?
This is Mike Garrison from Moog. It'll be similar to, of course, the the internship is intended to benefit both in this case, the student and the employer. So interns are viewed as future employees. So often the job that you're chasing, the resume that you're trying to build so that you can get hired at a company in the future, you really want to try to align your internship with that same resume because the employer is likely looking for you to have those similar skills, just recognizing that you're early in your career or still in your, as part of your finishing your education.
Thank you. Is there anything else for that question?
Being a college student, your GPA is really important for trying to find co-ops. So one of the examples that I would share with you guys is I was looking to apply at a company, and they have a requirement of a 3.0 GPA. So mine was a 298 at the time. And I went up, and they immediately threw out the resume right there. They said, you know, we will not take the time to talk to you. A different company, I walk up, 3.25 requirement for their GPA. I go up with my resume, let them know. They see my extracurriculars that I mentioned before, and they give me an interview. Obviously, I end up going with this job for different reasons, but the point is every company is different. And again, it was mentioned before, don't be deterred. Keep working away at it. And again, you just got to see it as that company's missing out on you. And it was a big wake-up call for myself as well. You have to keep working hard. And those requirements, they don't seem like they matter until they do. You have to be proactive in your prerequisites. You have to come up with a detailed plan for it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing that goes across any, like just pretty generically, is be accountable. If you're going to do something, you say you're going to do something, actually follow through and do it. Just because you're an intern, maybe you're not even getting paid, you're not getting paid much. Go through with it as far as you can. Put your best effort in, because we had an intern. He started his junior year of high school. He's still working with us now. And we're helping him pay for his college, and he's halfway through his undergraduate degree with a full-time job. So that kind of and they'll give you all the flexibility if you do good work and you are accountable. So those are some skills that are really useful.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question. It's from one of our students. It says, it was mentioned that a variety of skills can enhance your career as an engineer. Other than art, what are some fields that can complement an engineering degree?
English. Learning how to be a good writer is super helpful. You'd be surprised how many papers and proposals and different things like that you need to write.
Okay.
I was going to say business analysts or even the technical writing piece is a huge asset for those that have it.
Basic Python scripting, just knowing how to use a computer with some scripting knowledge is really helpful, so you can automate things using Arduino, Raspberry Pi.
Great, thank you. It looks like we're just about out of time. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for coming in, taking your time. And if nobody has anything else, I think that's it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yep, thank you. It was fun.
Thank you, Aiden.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks, Aiden.
Yep.
Thank you.
Aiden left really fast.